Now, our third topic tonight, we have in the House Chief Joe Rieger and Lieutenant Brad Fosdick as they enter us into a discussion on body cams for the police department.
Okay, so thank you for inviting us. Obviously, Lieutenant Brad Fosdick with me, who's been looking for fiscally responsible solutions to our body camera project.
Joe, can you pull your microphone a little closer, please? Hello? Thank you.
So I know, as you know, I've been budgeting body-worn cameras for the past couple of years. Recent events around the country have demonstrated that now more than ever, there's a need for these cameras. I believe these cameras play an important role when it comes to building police-community relations and supporting police transparency. Some of the other benefits of the body-worn cameras are aid in intelligence gathering, creating real-time record of police interactions with the community, recording of statements, collection of documentation, evidence at police scenes which can be later used in courts. One of the biggest benefits I see with these cameras, however, is offering protection of allegations of police misconduct. These false allegations of misconduct can be quickly investigated with these cameras, thus helping to ease police community tensions. My officers go out every day to protect our community with honesty and integrity. These cameras will have the capability to document the real-time officers' interactions with our community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there, what's the percentage of police departments that have body cameras now?
In Monroe County, many of the agencies do have them. Town and village police agencies have those. I don't have the statistic nationally.
All right.
They are expensive.
Yeah, it's my understanding when you talk about expensive, the investment in the cameras themselves is an expense, but then the maintenance of keeping the footage of what's on those cameras becomes expensive as well. Do I understand that correctly?
That's correct. The storage is what seems to be what's most costly with the project.
Are there guidelines as to how long things that needs to be stored?
There are some guidelines, depending if you need it for evidence or if you just need it. I know Lieutenant Fosdick had some of the information with timelines, but you can put that in your policy as to how long those things are kept. So
I'm thinking there's probably laws around that, not just guidelines.
the guidelines, our education law does dictate some of that, so yes.
As far as the operation of the cameras when the officers are actually wearing them, do they have the option to stop and start, or are they constantly on?
They're not constantly on, so per policy, we would expect, the policy would be that they'd have it on when they're having a police community interaction.
Okay.
The policy hasn't been set yet. We're still in the phase of purchasing the cameras.
So with that,
That was great.
there is an MOU schedule, retention schedule for the video, and that cycles through. So obviously major crimes like a homicide, we would hold on to that video indefinitely.
Right.
But for a normal traffic stop with no negative interaction, that might be held for 30 to 60 days. So that video, depending on what it is kind of purging itself every month. So that helps with the actual retention.
So, for example, you pull someone over, does the camera start rolling when you exit the car to approach the car that you pulled over?
Yeah, the officer would turn it on
Okay.
before they got out of the car.
Okay. Do you have dash cams?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Is that storage something that's done internally, or is it in a
It's cloud-based.
server, cloud-based?
I know we had discussions about grants and funding for the purchase of the cameras. Do you have any updates on that, any of that?
There's no available grants
Okay.
at this moment for body cameras. So I've kind of narrowed down to a couple vendors. one of the vendors that I'm really zeroed in on, the first year cost is about $19,000.
Okay.
And that's with all the hardware, and that's for the first year of storage. After that, every year, it's about $7,700 a year for storage, for that cloud storage.
And how many cameras is that?
That's for 18 cameras.
Okay, so all our officers.
Obviously, we have more officers, but 18
Right.
cameras should be more than enough to cover, 2 shifts.
Okay.
And any thoughts of how long these cameras last?
They'll, from what I'm told, 5 years is a good time to start cycling them out. So, if you're looking at a 5-year cost, we're looking at around $50,000 total.
Bill or Barry?
No, I'm good. I'm their liaison, I know all this stuff.
That's right. I guess I should say that, I think it was a couple months ago, within a few weeks after the Memorial Day incident in Minneapolis, that I was down meeting with Lieutenant Fosdick and Chief and Lieutenant Thomas. And, yeah, this is like, yeah, guys, I mean, I feel for you right now. It's tough to be under that, eye of the society right now, or, the actions of somebody in Minneapolis is all of a sudden being painted on all the in blue. It's not fair. And it's funny because that conversation, I just assumed, as a civilian, that police officers might take it as an affront and be insulted at the thought of having to wear a body cam. And Chief Rieger and Lieutenant Fosdick and Lieutenant Thomas said quite the contrary in 2020. Put them on us. And I'm paraphrasing what they said to me that day at that meeting, but they said, we know we're professional. We know when we make a stop, it doesn't matter if the person is tall, short, woman, man. We're going through our progressions that we've been trained on. And we think that body cams showing the full interaction and not just some cell phone that was the last 30 seconds would exonerate us and prove our professionalism. And, to me, that was the day I said, wow, that was a surprise to me. And they went into further explanation that might have been the initial reaction 10, 15 years ago, maybe by, when it was first came out, or the older cops and all that. But now as society has changed, and the young kids, and I say kids on the force, they grew up with phones and cameras and all that, it did make sense to me that, well, sure, you would want that. So I said, in more words or less, guys, go out and start researching it. I told the board, I told these guys to go start looking at it. And you have, and I think we've been relatively pleasantly surprised that the cost wasn't as much as we had thought. Because in the last couple of years' budgets, we budgeted $100,000 for body cams, but it was kind of a throwaway budget number because we had on the other side a $100,000 grant. So you're never going to get the $100,000 body cams unless you get the $100,000 grant. And as Lieutenant Fosdick said, to the best of our knowledge, there is no grants out there. But you really had never done the deep dive research with the two main vendors that you have started to do now to find out, well, it's not $100,000. It's actually what you just described, Brad, which is, $18,000, $19,000 year one, and then the next 4 years at like $8,000. So,
To your point, I'm sorry. I didn't
no, it's just.
So I think we're all aware that the point you're making about police officers, especially in Webster, kind of welcoming that. I think we've seen numerous examples of body cams that came out post negative social media portrayal of a stop that essentially exonerated police officers. And I know our police officers in Webster are extremely professional. And I think it's something that they want, and, you know, we should come up with a funding stream to provide that. And I think we have the ability at some point to look at some funding streams to do this.
Well, it is an expense. I don't think it's a matter of a want. I think it's more of a matter of necessity. I think this is something that many years ago probably wasn't desirable by many officers. I think now they're all clamoring for it.
Yeah, I agree.
And to help them do their jobs, and it's part of the cost of providing the service.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I don't have anything more to add to that. I agree with Councilman Dean. I think it's the way things have progressed in the evolution of law enforcement. And we all know that law enforcement is not an inexpensive venture in this town, but it is a service that our citizens have told us time and time again they appreciate.
Yes.
Well, I know this. I mean, you know, we got a lot of calls and emails in the last couple of months from Webster citizens, and it's a sign of the time. Some were like, you better not be thinking one iota of defunding the police. That's the new term these days, right?
All right.
And that was great for me to be able to get back. No, we have not. We have not talked about that. Where other people on the other end of the spectrum said you should, you know, this is the opportunity to defund the police. And I said, actually, it's interesting. We're talking about investing more in them. And at first, people were angry at me, like, what do you mean? And then I explained your paraphrase answer of, if we get body cams, we know we're professional, this would, you know. Most of those people who started out somewhat angry and were coming at it from, you know, riding the tide of incited craziness in society, once it was explained to them why we were thinking of it, they said, well, that actually makes a lot of sense and makes me feel better, you know, about what type of law enforcement we have in town. So it's interesting. I guess it gives me some faith in mankind that we just totally haven't gone off the rails in society, where you can't bring some rational conversation back to people. But I hope you guys, you know, keep doing the research. I know we've had some preliminary discussions. You guys are aware this is a crazy budget time this year with all the uncertainties, and I've appreciated that you're looking at other ways to maybe get that 19,000 for 2021. And I appreciate that, because it's tough to add anything onto the 2021 budget right now when we're still trying to figure out what 2020 is going to be. So this will be an ongoing thing, but it's one that if you keep doing the legwork and we keep meeting, I don't think it's out of, well, I don't know what it takes to turn time to buy them, to get trained, all that stuff, but if everything falls into place and it's a budget neutral and whatever for 2021, I haven't heard anything from you guys that says it's not possible you'd be hitting the ground running in 21 with your officers wearing it. And I think we've talked about the fact this is one of these, you can't be half pregnant. You either wear them 100% of the time or you don't have them at all. I think we all agree on that. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thanks,
for your
guys.
time. Thank you.
Chief, Lieutenant.